What's up, my friends? Welcome back. John Levesque here with another brand new tutorial. And today we are going to do some magic with the Microsoft Teams connector. That's right. Today I'm going to show you how to provision a team using Power Automate. Let's go. All right, so the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up some places for some data to live, okay? So the very first thing we're going to do here is we're going to create a form. This form is going to give us a place where people in our organization can request to have a team made. We don't want everyone to be able to make teams. We want very certain people to be able to make them, because if everyone can make a team, we're going to have team sprawl and things are going to get out of control, right? And so to limit that, I'm going to teach you how to make a request form, a place for that data to live, and then a flow that's going to automate that entire process for you. So first thing is you need a form, okay? Forms are very easy to make. I'm not going to walk through this with you. Basically, what you do is you click this plus add new and you add a bunch of text fields, okay? You have choice, text, rating, and some other things. I want you to add all text fields. First name, last name, email address, what's the name of the team you're requesting, what is the description, what's the purpose, and then other comments and considerations. These are all things we need to know if we're going to be successful in making a team for someone, right? Also, I'm going to make sure and ask for an email address here. Why? Because I'm not going to assume that everyone's authenticated or what. I'm just going to go ahead and ask for this so that I know it's annoying to users to have to enter it in if they're already identified, but that's okay. I just want to go ahead and have that info in that field. And so if I were you, I would add it in as well. It's going to make our flow a little bit easier. Okay, so next thing is we're going to use a SharePoint list to store all this information. Okay, so I'm over here in SharePoint. I'm going to click plus new list. I'm going to name it Teams Requests. And then I will also put a short description here just because it's good practice to have. A list to organize all new Teams channel requests, right? Boom, let's hit create. It's going to go ahead and provision us a brand new list with one field, which is title. Okay, so now if you want to change this away from title, you can go ahead and change your column settings here and rename it. But then what's going to happen is behind the scenes in the flow, it's still going to show up as title. And so instead, what we're going to do here is we're going to click format this column. No, we're not. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our list settings. We're going to click the gear and then click on list settings. And then that's going to bring us behind the scenes where all of our fields are. Okay. And so we can see here title modified. Okay. And so then if we click into title, then we can actually go ahead and modify that and change it to first name. And then we'll hit OK. And then what we're going to do here is click back on Teams requests, and it brings us back to our list. And we can see instead of title, it's first name. And then the beautiful part about this is it won't show title in our flow, which might confuse us. It's just going to show first name throughout. And so now let's go ahead and add lines of text for all the rest. And so you might say, John, why are you doing a single line of text for email instead of doing person? It's like, honestly, because I don't need all that. I don't need a person selector inside of this list. Flows work best with string format, which is text. And so to make this very simple and to help the flow understand and for me to not have to translate back and forth between types, I'm just going to go ahead and keep this simple and use all string. So now I'm going to go back. I have my first name, last name, email address. Let's go back to the form. What else do I have? What's the name of the team you're requesting? What's the description of the team? What else do we have? The purpose and comments and considerations. Oop, and I clicked the wrong button. So again, single line of text. And then we're going to go ahead and choose our approval status, and then our default value here, we're going to set to pending. Okay, so then that way, whenever a new item is made, its approval status will always be pending by default, because that's how we want it to be, right? If something's not approved, we don't want it to be approved or rejected. We want it to set in pending status so we know that it's waiting. Okay, so now this is it. This is all we need for our list where we can store our data. So we have our form, we have our list that matches plus one field, which is approval status. And now we can actually go ahead and begin to build our flow. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is when you sign into Flow, you'll be on the home page. You're going to click on My Flows. You're going to click on plus new. And then I always do automated from blank. Let's name it Teams Request Flow. And our trigger is actually nice and handy for me. But if it's not there for you, if you just type in forms, then this should rise right to the top when a new response is submitted. That's going to be the trigger to our flow. Okay, so go ahead and click that and then hit create. That then brings us into our brand new flow editor area. And so what it wants us to do is choose a form first. So what form do we want to work with? We're going to do the new team request form, right? That's our new team request form there. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then perfect. Okay. And then we will add in a new step. And so how you do that again is you hit that plus new step button. I'm going to type in forms again. I'm going to click on Microsoft Forms, and there's only one action, which is get response details. These two always go hand in hand. If you've seen me do other forms templates or tutorials before, you will know these two always go one and then the other. So we're going to go ahead and choose that same form again, new team request form. And then we're going to pass the response ID from our trigger into that action. Okay. And so now this is something that we have to do to prepare for what's to come. We're going to put in here Azure AD, which is Azure Active Directory. And we need this because we're going to have to actually grab the ID of the user who is asking for the team, so that we can add them to the team later if we need to. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that, Azure AD, and then we want to get user, and then it needs a user ID or principal name, which luckily enough is an email address, which remember we asked them to provide, right? It's all making sense now. We pass that email address that they provide into the get user field. And now we have a whole bunch of information about them, which is great. And so now what we want to do is we want to start an approval. So we type in approval. We then have our approvals connector. We select that. And then we do start and wait for an approval, both at once. Not just create, not just wait, but start and wait. Then it asks us to choose a type. For this, I'm going to choose first to respond, right? But let's say that you wanted 3 people to all have to approve. You could choose the everyone must approve option here. And then multiple people could. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be as many as you want. But you have 2 options, kind of one person, so the first person to approve wins the race, or this whole group must approve before we move on. For the purposes of the demo here, I'm going to choose first to respond. And so now this is where we're going to build context, okay? The approval piece of this is very important because we want to make sure that in this approval is enough information for someone to make a decision on whether they want this team created or not. What we don't want them to do is have to go and write another email or send a bunch of questions or click a bunch of links to gather up info. We want to give them all they need here, right? So the title will be New Team Request. Okay, and so That will give us a very basic understanding. So then we always know that new team requests are just going to come in with that same title. Okay, so it's going to come to me at johnlevesque.com. That's me. That's my admin account. And so I'm going to assign all the approvals there. Now, this details area, it does support Markdown, not HTML. And so if you don't know what Markdown is, you can actually go to this link, http aka ms approval details, and you can learn about Markdown there. I'm not going to get so fancy as to format it so nicely as that, but I am going to put some useful information in here that would help someone make a decision about an approval, okay? So let's go ahead and craft an email. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I put some text, and now I want to actually use some information from my previous steps because it'll be helpful to me in building my flow, right? I can make this dynamic so that it works for every single person who does it. And so what I can do is I can put requester name, and then I can come down here to the form, right? And I can do a first name, and then I can click back in and hit space, last name, right? And then I can do request details. And then I can put a colon, right? And then the details are actually, no, wait, hold on. I need to put like this, team name. Team name requested, right? What is the name of the team? Boom. And then the description. And then the justifications. And then any comments that they might have. Right? And so now everything they've put into the form gets dropped into this request so that I can see that it's waiting for me, right? And so now actually, you know what? Oh, I skipped a step. We're going to go back one step. And so what we're going to do here is you see these black lines between the steps. This allows you to inject a step previous to the step you already had. And if you want to, you could actually drag these things around and reorder them too. So we'll go ahead and click right here. We'll click add an action, and we're going to choose create item. We'll type that in the box. And what we should see here is SharePoint comes open, and we have the option to create item in SharePoint. And so we'll select that. It's then going to ask us what's our site address. And that's my johnlevesque.com site. And then in the list, Teams requests. Okay. Now, boom, it just opened up. And so we can see here that now it's going to ask me for some information. And so now what we can do is we can just map these fields. First name, and then last name, and then email address, and then what's the team name, and what's the team description, and purpose and justifications, and then comments and considerations. Okay, and then our status is set to pending. So now we went and created a step before the approval, which says, let's go ahead and take all this information out of the form and drop it into our SharePoint list we created over here as a holding place, right? And then we go ahead and remember we changed all of our items in here to pending. And so we can see right here, the approval status is pending, which is true because it actually hasn't even created the approval yet at that point. So now we skip back down to where we created the approval. And then what we can do is we can actually say, hey, you know what? If you want to see more information about this, like if it wasn't enough here and you want to see it all together, you can actually give them a link to that SharePoint item so that they can open it up in SharePoint to see. And then you can even put a description. See the whole request here. And so that link will kind of show up with that text. And then this link will be behind it. The item link will be behind it, and we'll take them to it to check it out. Okay, so now after an approval, right, because we're going to ask someone to make a decision, we have to then have a condition. And the condition is if yes and if no. And so what are we going to condition on? We're going to condition on the outcome. Okay, and so there's a lot of stuff here, right? There's response, there's body, there's responses, items, there's responses. We want to use outcome. And so the outcome of the approval. So if the outcome of the approval is equal to approve. Okay, so this is an important point. It is a capital A, P-P-R-O-V-E. You can't put a D, you can't put an S, you can't change the word. For this to work exactly how this works, it has to match this. Outcome is equal to approve. You could also put reject if you would rather confirm on the negative. I tend to always do approve, so then my approve path is the yes and my deny path is the no. It just makes logical sense to me that way, and so I tend to organize it like that. So in our condition, we choose outcome on the left side. We say is equal to approve. So if it is equal to approve, what then do we want to do? So the first thing we want to do is we want to update our SharePoint item. Okay, and so what we're going to go ahead and do then is we're going to go ahead and tell it we want to connect back to that site and that list, and we're going to pass the created item, the ID of it, back in here. Okay, and so we have some required fields. You can see the little star. And so unfortunately, what we have to do here is actually pass all the information back in. And so that's a bit of a bug on doing that, having to do that, but it is a little tax that we pay, but we do fill out all the fields again, to do the update. But I'm going to show you how we save a little bit of time in our if no field when we do this. Okay. So we're going to scroll all the way down here and we're going to map these one to one. First name, last name, all the way down again. Email address. And so then we change that approval status to approve or approved, because here it doesn't matter. We can put whatever we want. And now you're like, oh man, we got to do that again on the reject side, right? Kind of yes, kind of no. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to click these three dots and we're going to hit copy to my clipboard. We're then going to click add an action over here. We're going to go to the clipboard and we're then going to insert this step. It kind of does a little reset, but what you can see is it actually took all this info that we needed, dropped it over here, and now all we have to do is change our one word, right? Copy and paste in Power Automate. Saves a lot of time. It's a great little handy tip, handy tool. Use it as often as you can. And so here's a cool thing about it. If we go ahead and copy this to my clipboard, we can see that if we want to add an action, you can actually have several items in the clipboard at a time as well. And so you can kind of keep them there. When you refresh your page or when you leave the page, that clipboard will clear. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't persist beyond the session. If you refresh, if you leave, it goes away. But for this session, we can hold a few of those items in our clipboard if we want to, which is pretty cool. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add the action to then create the team, right? That's what we're here for, to provision a team creation. And so it's not create a team's meeting. Nope, it is create a team. It's preview, so keep in mind this is a preview feature. It's not GA. It's not like officially released. It's preview. It's for you to use, to give feedback on, but we don't recommend using this in your production environments. It is up to you. You can totally do it if you want to, but just keep in mind it is a preview feature and we tag things that way to let you know that they're not totally officially released yet. They're just for testing. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and click on in, and we can see that we have a few fields here. And so it asks us for the team name, which we have right here. And then our description, we also have right here. And then the visibility of that team, we will go ahead and make public, right? Look at that. Simple as that. What we've done is we've created a form that allows us to provision it. We've created a SharePoint list to hold the information. And then we created a flow that's actually going to make a team. So all that's left to do is test it out. Let's save it. And then let's test it. And we'll say, I'll perform the trigger action and then test. And so what that means is when you say, I'll perform the trigger action, What's the trigger? The trigger is when a forms request is submitted. And so now the flow is waiting for the trigger to happen. And so if we go over to the form here and we click on preview, we can then start to use our form. We'll say John of me at johnlevesque.com. What's the name of the team you are requesting? Twitch. We'll call it Twitch. Maybe I need a channel to organize all of my Twitch information, right? Because I do Twitch streaming. What'll be the description? The single place for all things related to my Twitch channel, right? What's the purpose of the team? To stay organized and maintain schedules and assets. So that sounds like good justification, right? Good purpose. And then other comments and considerations. And we'll say, pretty please. I mean, can't hurt to ask nice. And so then we'll hit submit. Thanks, your response was submitted. Now we go over to the flow. The screen changed, right? It said it's running. Oh, here we go. Something happened. We see some green check marks. So we got our form. We got all the response details. Look at that. Me at John Levesque, Twitch, all the info I just put into the form. It then it goes and gets all of my information here from Azure Active Directory, which I really am actually going to use in a later step. And then we create this item in SharePoint. So let's see if it happened. Look at that. I didn't even have to refresh. Click over to SharePoint. All the information is here. It's pending, right? And look, all my comments are there. All right, so let's go over to my email and check for this approval so that we can finish the flow and see what happens. Okay, so let's go ahead and open my Outlook. Let's see here. A couple of these went through. I sent a couple because it was taking more time than I wanted it to. So, hello admin. There's a new request for a team to be created. Details are as follows. The requester name, John Levesque. That's me. Team name requested, Twitch. Team description, the single place for all things related to twitch.tv/John J. Levesque, my Twitch channel. What's the justification? I need to stay organized. I need to maintain schedules and all my assets, right? And what's our comment? Pretty please, because a little bit of pretty please goes a long way. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. This sounds great. Flow, make it happen. Ready? And then we hit submit. And then right there in the email, it's going to send a response back. Now, a lot of you email and ask me, why doesn't mine do that? Notice I am in the web version of Outlook. I don't use the desktop version. I use the web version, which allows me that beautiful option of being able to do that right in my email. So now, if we go back to our flow here and make sure that we have the correct run opened up. Let's refresh the page. Let's go ahead to our first request here. And we can see that the condition happened. Okay, this one is grayed out. Why? Because we accepted, so our expression resulted in true. The item was updated to say that this was approved, right? Okay, and then a team was created. Whoa. Okay, so first things first, let's go over here to this. John Levesque Twitch approved. Now, I sent a second one through while I was waiting. Don't pay attention to that. It's garbage. Right here, we are approved. Okay, and let's now go ahead and open up Teams and check this out. Boom. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. There's a Twitch channel. Look at that. It's right there. It exists already. It already got made. Okay, so that's it. That's how you do it. If you want to go ahead and make this flow, just follow along with this video exactly how I did. Follow these steps and you too can create this flow. Now, if you want to get really fancy, what you can do is you can actually also do some additional steps like when a new team is created, add an admin account, and all sorts of stuff. You can auto add users to that team. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff you can do, but from here you can get started. All the possibilities are yours. Power Automate makes creating teams super simple, and I went ahead and showed you how to put an approval process in place ahead of this, so that way you don't have everybody and anybody making teams all the time. There's a process, there's a clear place where the data lives, and so that way everything gets managed and maintained properly. Okay, that's it, my friends. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Otherwise, go ahead and click like, click subscribe, hit that little bell so that you don't miss another video. And I will see you in the next one.